How are you doing today, Hagen?
I'm doing great, Bruno. How are you?
Coming to you live from the Lamar Studios. You have the RO R&D podcast
Ooh.
featuring yourself truly, Bruno Cicchini, and Mr. Hagen Fritz.
Oh, Mr. now. Interesting.
Sorry, Doctor.
Oh, okay. I didn't go to school for 5 years for nothing.
Seems like it.
Okay.
How are you? How's your Wednesday going?
Going well. Yeah, had a nice little lunch before this. I don't want to ruin the surprise of who we had lunch with, but
Oh,
so far it's been a great morning.
well, we do have very special guests today.
Another special one. Wow, they just keep saying special.
Yeah, I'm excited to have our guest today.
Mm.
She's a national treasure, really. I
Oh.
think, mainly in the VDC department.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's your neck of the woods.
That is my neck of the woods. So we do have Miss Vanessa Miller all the way from down under in San Antonio.
Ooh, that's far.
Yeah, I hear she bikes all the time. So I think she biked here.
Wow,
So
that's incredible.
that's a big bike. But that's not the reason we actually went to lunch. We went to lunch because we actually have a new VDC hire, an
Oh,
assistant
okay.
VDC. Shout out Josh. He's he's currently he should be working. Josh, get back to work. Uh, so yeah, no, just been impressive, kind of how we've been growing. It made me realize how we started today with one more to add to our little big RO
Family.
family. I know.
Oh, cute.
Which reminds me, were you in attendance of the Connect events last week?
Ah, yes, with the Greater Austin family, I was in attendance.
And what do you think? Any thoughts? Any?
Well, it was my second one, I suppose. I went to the one in Waco, but that was like 2 days after I started, so I was kind of overwhelmed and just like meeting people left and right. So that's not a good comparison. But this one, I liked it a lot. I thought it was actually, it was great. It was really neat to see the transparency or I guess hear the transparency from leadership, to see kind of how we did last year and what kind of progress we're making. Even if we didn't hit our goals on some of our key results, we were still making progress, which was kind of something that Todd stressed. So that was, even though those were low scores, it was still kind of, I don't know, it made me feel good that we are making that progress. And then to see kind of like the budget and how much money the company's making and like all the products we got, I don't know. I just feel like that's weird. I never worked at another big company before, so
You worked at all, really?
right, yeah. So seeing like the numbers on the screen and like what our breakdowns are, I thought that was kind of neat. And honestly, I felt like Austin Robertson would have said more, if but he probably would have bored more people. But
I love that Oreos reference.
the who?
Oreos.
Oh yes, that was a good one. Yes, already teaching his daughter about accounting, getting her set up to run the company.
Future
after.
chief.
Right, yeah.
Future chief. Chief. Do you have any other big takeaways from the Connect event? I mean, it's interesting to hear your perspective because I've been here a good 5 years. I've actually seen it evolve, and it's getting better. It's getting good. It's getting more, I'll say, modern, and definitely bigger. More people being added. But do you have any big lesson? Anything that you're like, I'm gonna take this back home and hang it on my fridge?
I think they definitely hit home. It's one. I think it's the second objective, fourth key result, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's being a support team for operations. I think they kind of nailed that and kind of highlighted how important operations is to getting to making the company money, right? And how we all, myself, R&D and VDC, how we can be better support. So hopefully I can deliver on that, right? Make sure R&D is being a good support department for operations. So I think they did a good job of that, and it got me excited to kind of help out those folks.
No, that's pretty neat. No, I agree. It's very exciting to see where we're headed, where we're at, and what's coming down the pipeline.
Right.
So
Speaking of which, since we're talking about
pipelines?
no,
Oh,
but OKRs and things that I guess it's just OKRs really. I wanted to shout out our OKRs if I
Oh.
could. If I could
sure,
take-
sure. This is
take
your
this moment.
stage. This is your world. We're all living in it. Hagen.
Right, that's exactly right. That's what Cesar said yesterday. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting because we're trying to figure out, as I mentioned last week, we're trying to figure out what people want, right? Do they want a lot of little ideas that can be implemented immediately and successfully, or do they want us to kind of focus on these deep dives that are going to take us longer and might not happen because they are more complex things? And so we're trying to reach out to not only everyone in the company, so there's a survey. Watch your inbox. There'll be a survey coming out in maybe a month or so about just kind of what people are trying to get out of the innovation station when they submit their ideas. But then we're also actually meeting with people that are like heavy engagers on the innovation station, people that have submitted a lot of ideas. Our guest being one of them, she submitted a lot, but we're actually not going to reach out to her because she's going to talk about all of her ideas.
Oh.
But then there's also a group of people that they log into the innovation station. They're viewing ideas, they're liking, they're commenting, but they're not submitting any ideas. We want to see okay, why they're interacting.
Why aren't you
submitting?
competing?
Right, and then there's people that don't interact with the innovation station. So we want to see how can we get them to interact with it? How can we get them to even maybe submit ideas, but also just kind of advocate for ideas that
Get
are
them engaged.
right. Absolutely. So
How do you decide this list of people? Seems like we'll have a golden ticket situation.
oh, it is yes. So make sure you're looking in your candy wrappers when you open.
Oh, we're
No.
sending out candy too.
We James and I, James Holmes, we spent some time.
Not the other James Holmes.
I'm just trying to make sure there's a lot of Jameses in this world. I don't know. We spent some time discussing, based off of usage on the innovation station and trying to get good representation from all 4 of our offices, kind of in proportion to, how much work or how many people are in those offices, as well as trying to proportion it out based off of the departments as well. So operations, we want to get a lot of representation for operations because they're like 70.
They're the meat of the pie.
They
of
are
what
the
we
meat of the
do.
pie, yeah, absolutely. And they are kind of our, like I said, we're trying to be a good support department for them. We want to make sure that we're hitting those ideas that they're submitting. So that's kind of how we curated that list, if you will. And then James is reaching out to people and hopefully set up those meetings. And what's great about that is we're not just going to meet on Zoom, or we don't use Zoom. We're not going to meet on Teams.
Oh, does this go beyond teams?
It goes beyond Teams to the in-person,
To the
physical.
field.
Yeah, right. So we actually hopefully go to job sites. So that'll be neat for me personally because I've only gone to 2, I think, job sites since I've been here.
Didn't you go to your first job site this week by
No.
yourself?
No, I went like a month ago by myself.
You went to the first time to his job site. He lasted 10 minutes out there.
I
He
don't
was back
have
in
a job
15
site.
minutes.
Oh, scary. Yeah, it's very hot too. Huh. So that'll be exciting to actually go to job sites. Actually get to meet a lot of people. I hear a lot of names between you and James and everybody in the office. So it'll be actually nice to put faces to the names.
Name to the face. Yes.
Did I say it wrong? Face. I think I did say it
I
wrong.
think it works both
Yeah,
ways.
right, yeah.
To be honest.
So that'll be neat, and to actually get to meet them on their home turf, so to speak. I think they'll appreciate that.
Yeah, you can keep it personal, a little more authentic.
Right.
You get to see I'm me, you're you.
Right. And I get make sure that people know about R&D, right? We're a very small department, relatively new department, so make sure
Few people.
Well, I don't. You decide the proportion of Bruno that's a part of it, but so I think it'll be nice to get our name out there as well to know that we are an advocate and a support department for operations.
That is exciting. So you heard it here first. If you're a lucky winner, you'll get an email
Or phone call.
or phone call. Well, you might get chosen to meet these wonderful people
Yeah.
in the R&D department.
And me.
Exactly. But with that said, I know people love this segment.
Right. They
I get
absolutely
feedback about this all the time.
Oh my gosh, you get so many questions.
They
It's
stop
just,
me on
how do you
the-
get any work done?
On the hallway, like, Bruno, these questions are great. How can we keep submitting them? Because Hardhat segment is my segment of the week.
Oh, that's what we're talking about?
That's what they look forward to in
Oh.
the week. So if you want, I think we're ready for people's favorite segment, Hardhat Questions. You want to get the hard?
Yeah. Am I asking the questions this time, or you want to ask them?
I'll ask him.
Okay. I've been talking a lot. My mouth is dry.
Yeah, you love to do that. Keep yapping away.
This is the one chance I get to talk. Other times I'm just facing the wall.
This one is from Mike Helmke. Hey, Mikey. What are you doing that excites you in R&D?
You can read that part?
They didn't have that part.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
Interacting a lot with Procore and learning a little bit more about Procore and how to access that information, not necessarily from like the typical like go to Procore, hit documents, but actually from the back end side of things. So how to, I guess, make requests to different endpoints, I guess they're called. And so you can actually just pull documents and pull information from like the directory and use that information for other projects. I don't want to talk about the safety form because I've talked about it like every single time. But primarily because of the safety form. But there's a lot of other ideas.
Nail hit the hammer.
There was one, the trade partner lookup tool, or a trade partner review is, I think, an idea that Andrew Kilborn.
Shout out.
Yeah, that's his name, right?
Yeah, she
Okay.
also submitted an idea recently.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yep. He submitted one about having it digitized versus just a paper form. So that could be something that we use with Procore. I think that may be just being in Procore tool, but still having all that Procore knowledge, I think, is going to be useful because hopefully all of our services start
Fingers
going to
crossed.
Yeah,
I don't see them cross.
they're cross.
Do you think we have time for one more question? I think
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
I think so.
James is saying yeah. Or he's
James
got
Holmes
something
or
on
with
his
James?
James. Yeah, I think his last name's Holmes. James Donald Holmes. Yes.
Oh, this one's relevant for all our new hires coming aboard.
Oh, Josh.
Maybe Josh or interns or anyone who might show up. Any words of advice to young new builders, either RRO or elsewhere in the industry? And you're yourself a young buck. You still have a little baby deer.
Right. Although you call me older yet. Just in general. So for me, it's scary talking to people,
Are you still
networking.
scared?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh.
I guess scary. Intimidating to kind of just walk up to people and have a conversation. I'm a little shy. So,
Doesn't seem like it.
but I think that's really important, especially. I guess I'm kind of lucky in the sense that there's really only like 2 people I need to talk to on a day-to-day basis, you and James Holmes. But I think it's important to network and meet people in the office, meet people on your job site so that you've developed that chemistry and it's easier to go up to them when you do have a problem or you do have a question or something like that. You're not nervous to not ask that question. I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I think kind of to tie back into the beginning, I think that's the connect events are I think a good way
Absolutely,
to do those.
absolutely, yeah.
Especially since most of us might be at job site for most of the year, so it's a good
Yeah.
chance to come out of the job site trailer and
Mm-hmm.
get to talk to
Them
you.
office folks.
I know us nerds behind the screens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I think that was great. I think I did a short introduction for this person that's about to come on board, but
Person who?
she needs no introduction.
Oh, absolutely not.
She's a walking sunshine into any office, building any project. We love her here. We love her in Dallas. We really love her in VDC.
Mm.
So I'm excited to welcome our guest of this week, Vanessa Miller.
Woo, Vanessa.
And with that, they'll take it away.
Okay.
Hey, Joker. Thank you for coming in and beta testing Iris. We really want to bring our heads together to get some sort of feedback.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy.
You were right about needing a space where we need to share the information of the ideas submitted.
See?
With Iris, not only can you see these core ideas, we can also view them all ranked next to each other.
And you didn't disappoint.
Let me tell you, the interns worked so hard on this, they were forced to eat cold breakfast tacos that were a week old.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
You can challenge scores now by simply providing a bit of information and then our team will review it.
What would I do without you?
Well, we hope this can be a positive change.
There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever.
Good. We didn't think you wanted to go back to suggestion boxes.
No.
Is my favorite part of Bruno's clip. The
Yeah.
whole
It's a bad joke.
I'm Batman.
I
The
don't.
sad face.
It's my favorite part too.
It worked so hard to make sure that we got that in there. I don't know if Bruno recalls or not, but we must have done probably 20 takes. I'm pretty sure both of them are like tired of me. We were in here on the green screen going back and forth. I was like, hey guys, like one more time. Hagen's doing the Star Wars thing. I'm like, yeah, you're not quite perfectly matched to Luke Skywalker, so like pick up your right heel an inch higher and pivot over your shoulder a bit more. And he's too nice of a guy to say anything, but you can kind of see it in his face. He's like, this mother
Just
trucker.
Exhausted.
Yeah, we gotta get him out of here. He's nothing but trouble. Vanessa Miller,
That's me.
thank you so much for coming all the way up from San Antonio to join us today.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, you know.
So,
Only for a BIM meeting. I'd only miss it for a BIM meeting.
as someone who can appreciate the importance of those, especially in a mission critical job, I don't like if you had been like a wedding, I'd be like, whatever, I've missed weddings before,
Yeah.
funerals. Like, yeah, I got it. Birthday parties, whatever. You missed a coordination meeting.
Well, I did. Well, I missed it in person, which I really like doing now that we're able to do that again. But yeah, no, I was there in Zoomland.
Zoomland. Man, I forgot about that. Yeah, because at least in my experience, especially the mission critical stuff, we had always done I shouldn't say always, most of those coordination meetings were done in person. And it was so nice because you could walk over to the trailer and be like, hey, Mr. Electrician, what about this maneuver that we talked about or whatever? And then we went to I guess you guys had to go to the all virtual during COVID and all that.
Yeah.
Were you down in San Antonio doing data centers through that whole time period?
Oh yeah.
What was that like going from that in-person coordination to like, now we've got to figure out how to do this, remotely?
It's really hard because you don't get to know the people that you're working with, and essentially what we do is like team building. So there's no way to build that kind of trust that you need to build on a coordination team, or like, you're having to share toys and stuff basically, or share space. So it's like, how do you create that like community with not knowing who people are? And so we had sometimes where like you would learn people's voices, but then I don't know, like you just still have a hard time like getting to know who people are, making people feel comfortable. So we had to like come up with creative ways to create that community without having people in person.
Do you have any examples of that you could share? Like, were there like I can just picture Vanessa doing like some sort of weird icebreaker, like Mad Lib type thing to get people engaged or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get anything really crazy, but I definitely like had like at the beginning of North Rim, we got everybody on the call, and I asked everybody like what their favorite project that they had worked on was. So it was a good way for people to kind of talk about themselves and like, you begin to like have an idea about like where they're from and what they've done. So I think that helped it a little bit. I tried to require people to have their cameras on, like just so that people were like actually paying attention. But yeah, I mean, you have to like think of those things. And I think a lot of people are still remote. We've still been doing most of our stuff remote, but at least me, I'm able to sit with my team and kind of like get some feedback from them. I don't know if y'all do this, but there's like a lot of times during our BIM meetings, we'll turn the mic off and I'll be like, what's going on with this thing? And like,
No one's going to admit to it.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you that much.
So that's kind of nice, but at least you still have your team there to kind of like support you. And
well, let me steal like an artist, shout out Todd Wynn, and ask you, what was your favorite project that you've worked on at RO?
Favorite project at RO. I think Microsoft was really special. It was unique. We had a big team. We were like crammed in there, and it was so like, it was just different than anything I had done in my career. And I think we just built a little community out there, and like that.
That wasn't little. I've been to towns in Texas that are smaller than that job site was.
It was a huge job site, and I mean, you just can't like. There's nothing. I've never done anything like that, so it was different. And
yet another reoccurring theme, just like the pride you're able to take in building something like that, especially data centers, right?
Yeah.
That's such a critical but hidden part of everything we do. We're obviously live streaming this through YouTube right now to be out there on Spotify and all that. That's all because of data centers.
Yeah.
Makes it happen.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was such a big industry. Like you forget about it. It's like, oh, it's the cloud. It's imaginary, right? Like it's all fake.
All right, Grandma.
I know. Settle down, Grandpa.
I just realized we are the two oldest people in this room.
Yeah, we are.
So how did you learn a lot of that? Was that just kind of like on the job discussing stuff with the client, or like did you search out that information? Did you learn this at trade shows? Or I mean, that's every project has its own kind of bit of esoteric knowledge, but with the data centers it is so much more than most others. So kind of what was your source for gaining that domain knowledge to how to build those?
Yeah. So my background, I had done a lot of central utility plants. So I had done a lot of chilled water stuff and like mechanical stuff. And I hadn't done anything electrical that intense. Like I had done, battery backup systems because I had just gotten off of the museum, which you have to have like a lot of redundancy to keep all the artwork, cooled and humidified at a certain thing. So I had like that kind of background, but as far as like data centers go, it's just so much more. but I was sat right next to Justin and
Justin Curlis.
yeah, Justin Curlis, and like him and Herbert. And so like I just got super lucky. Like they were literally right next to me. And so then I just would turn to them and be like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that thing? What's a PDU? What's a, like crack unit? Like, what does that mean? And like, they would just explain it to me. And both of them are like natural teachers. So I could ask them anything and they would just like start, vomit at the mouth and, whatever.
And they've both been down there for ever. Like, I know at least as long as I've been here, Mr. Carlos has been down there knocking out data centers. And I don't think Herb was far behind on that bandwagon or maybe beating down there. I don't know. So yeah, just the amount of knowledge I have, not only to data centers, but how RO builds data centers. Because at least my experience working in a couple different GCs has been that everyone kind of has their own little twist on how to make the magic happen.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine a better set of people to
I
bring
know,
up to speed.
like it was just pure luck, and both of them are so like no nonsense. Like you can ask them anything, and like they're gonna give you the honest answer. They're not just give you like the, like, well, this is the technical answer. They're gonna give you the real answer. So like, yeah, I just got super lucky. And
let me get a real answer out of you. What do you love about RO?
oh, the people. No, I love it here because it's different than anywhere. We do care a lot about people, so it's like we get to do fun things together. Like we have constantly some, happy hour set up or Christmas brunch or, town hall, and like there's just a million things that we do. And like I know that you guys do it here in Austin too. We have kickball, or like in San Antonio we did trivia night for a while. And like I could do any job in the world. Like I'm not, I'm pretty smart, but I'm just saying, like, you could do any job in the world, but it's like, who are you going to go to work and be excited to work with? Like, who do you want to hang out with? And like the people that I work with, like we've had fun together, like, like.
Definitely. Yeah. I'd co-sign that any day of the week. I love hearing that, being one of those people. It makes me feel, it's a good morale boost for myself. You're like, James, sure.
Oh man,
you're doing something all right. You're doing something different and fun.
Waco was so cool because like hearing people's stories and like just catching up with everybody, like story time with people at RO is like, it's the greatest. It's the best.
Yeah, well, especially 'cause that was our first big like corporate get together with all 500 or whatever it was of us after post COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was that was a lot of fun. There's so many new people too.
Oh yeah,
just getting to hear their stories about who they are, where they came from, where there were some people there had 10, 15 years in industry that came in and are like, oh man, I'm excited about RO for all these reasons, and I want to bring in these lessons learned. And there are other people that were fresh out of school coming on board and sharing their stories about, oh, I heard about this and I saw that.
Can you imagine being Hagen like at your first or your second day at RO and you're in Waco with like all these people just getting, having a good time? And
that's right. He was like fresh in. Yeah, I think he went to orientation up in Dallas, came down, and like the next day it's like, all right, well, here's all these people. Get to know them. This is your new family.
But if you're the right person for RO, that would have been like the best thing ever, right? Like that was like, yeah.
I find that hard to believe. So how did you end up at RO? Because you didn't come here out of school, right? You had some prior careers and all that, right?
Yeah, I had done project management for like 5 years. Well, I went from like PE to assistant PM and ended up in project management. And my best friend from architecture school, Stephanie, had started here like a month before. And she was like, I think they're looking for like a BIM person. And I know you like Revit. And I was like, open to it, but I wasn't looking for a career change at that point. But I had always wanted to like work in that side of the business. So I took a meeting with Marco and like
Marco Barrio.
Yeah, Marco Barrio.
Get him a link to these.
Yeah,
I'll talk to him in a minute.
It's so funny because him and I didn't even talk about VDC stuff like at all. We talked about traveling the whole time. Like we just talked about like different countries we'd been to and like architecture school. And so like I think we just became like friends immediately. And then he was like, oh yeah, you'll figure out the VDC stuff. It's fine. It's fine. Which is true. I mean, you don't learn VDC like how you're going to do that in school. That's just like, you learn it on the job really.
Here's the big secret to anyone out there, looking to get into the VDC world. We don't know how to do it.
Yeah, we're all just
figuring out as we go, right? those tools, they're constantly evolving. Revit came to be in the early 2000s, and then was bought out by Autodesk in like 2012 or whatever. That's I guess 11 years ago now. See, it seems a lot less impactful now. I just did the math.
Yeah.
I did not think ahead on that. But still, you compare a tool like Revit or Navisworks and existing for really in the industry for, call it 10 years, to, how long has an RFI been around? How long has slip sheeting been around? So it's so new. We're all figuring it out as we go. And I admire the schools for making an effort to teach the students how to use Navisworks, how to use Revit, how to develop schedule values, all those types of things. But at the same time, like, we're still figuring it out. So we can't inform them on how to teach students because it's, with each project we evolve and get better. We better figure out how to implement a BIM execution plan and those types of tools. So it's constantly evolving. And yeah, being the ability to learn, I think, is more valuable than what you have learned.
Yeah. I think, exposing kids to that, like in college, is more about like figuring out what you like versus like learning how to do what you're going to do.
That's such a great point, man. So you spent 5 years as a PM. Do you think that experience as a project manager and kind of a different role than the VDC type of role, do you think that better prepares you for what you've been doing since then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I understand what a project manager needs to be supported or to feel supported. So like, I think that is something that's a little bit different than me than a lot of people. And then I was a PE for a long time too. So like I had to like go out in the field and tell people where to move their duct. So knowing how painful it is to tell people to move once they've installed versus what I do now is like, it's night and day. I think everybody who's in VDC should have to spend some amount of time in the field, or like, at least, like, I work on job sites, but I know a lot of VDC companies or businesses don't. And I think you need to be out there, like, I think you have to build that relationship with your team that's going to be installing, because they need to be able to come to you and ask you questions, and you need to be able to ask them questions about constructability. And like, I think all those things, seeing it from a different perspective for me has been like a game changer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I know at least on my end, I went from field to a VDC position at RO, and it took me, it felt like no time at all to totally forget how big a piece of ductwork is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd ask people, be like, oh, hey, Erico, could you take this, 42 by 38 duct and move it 3 feet? And they're like, maybe, I don't know. I need to look at this. And look at the screen, it's that big. It's like, this fits, right?
It's orange, it's fine.
Yeah. I think it's really easy to forget. So yeah, at least having that exposure at some point, understanding what a 6-inch drain line looks like when it's in the garage, would be like, oh shoot, like, yeah, this is no small task to relocate this. And
Yeah.
kind of helps you gain a clarity on constructability that elsewise is very difficult to ever achieve.
True. I think chilled water pipe is the one that like is easy to miss in BIM
Ooh.
coordination, because it's like, oh, it's just another conduit. It's just another pipe, but you don't realize it's like giant steel pipe that like sometimes welded together or like bolted. Like it's, yeah.
Man, so I'm curious. You touched on a bit with the field experience, but what would you describe as like the perfect VDC person? What are like some of their strengths, their weaknesses, the characteristics and experiences? Like if you're told, Vanessa, go hire the perfect person, go make the perfect person, right? Let's fast forward like 100 years in the future, and you're able to sit there and like use genomic editing to create this individual. What are you programming into that person?
I think something that is probably not natural to me that I've learned is like you really do have to be able to build a team. So somebody that's a good team leader. So maybe some sports background experience would probably be good there.
Interesting.
Another thing that's really important is, technical. You don't need technical knowledge, but like aptitude. Like you need to be able to kind of change from one technology to the next pretty easily. I think field experience is huge. So if they've been a PE and had to go through that process of like doing submittals, and like I said, going out in the field and like asking some guy to move his duct 3 feet. Like if you've had that experience, you appreciate what it is we do. And what else? Yeah. I think you have to have a basic knowledge of systems. I know a lot of supers are pushing for us to have more knowledge of the systems and like how they work or how they're installed. I don't think that you can expect people to have that kind of knowledge and do what we do. Like, you know, like the industry just doesn't have those kind of like people available. You have to start from like what you're given. So like, I think constructability is something that, you know, we can work on over time, but I don't think you have to have that knowledge like up front. I think you have enough team people to kind of help look at your model and projects to kind of help you do that.
Nice. Yeah, a little adaptability, a little bit of empathy, a little domain knowledge, sprinkle of this, dash of that.
Yeah.
A little, maybe a high school quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, right. I feel like that's who you are sometimes, you know? It's really about like giving people the opportunity to be their best, you know? It's like, how do you stand out of their way and say like, electrical modeler, I need you to do your best for me right now, and like, how can you help me? How can I help you help yourself? Like, I don't know. It's about coordinating that and like building that.
I think that even goes well beyond coordination of VDC and just across the board. I think that's so often the difference, seeing a highly effective and well-functioning organization compared to those that are just kind of checking the box. It's relatively easy for someone to say, Vanessa, go do this. It's a lot different for someone to stop and think, I need to get this thing done. What does Vanessa bring to the table, and how can I use her skills to better do this?
Yeah.
You actually have to stop and think about it versus just directing, if you will.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that all of our VDC specialists do have their own strengths, and like they're like a little basket of kind of mixed fruit that you can like kind of pick from, like, oh, this person would be really good for that or whatever. But
basket of mixed fruit. That's what we're recording is like the quote to go on the thumbnail for this one. Our VDC department is a basket of mixed fruit.
no, they're all a phone call away from me. So like I know who to call when I have a question about one thing or another. Like,
it's so true though. It's such a diverse group. If you look at someone like Miranda Minshew and Nacho, Marco Sertuche, I just stopped and think about what his name was. If you look, like they're, I think polar opposites from like a strengths and ability standpoint, but they're also absolutely yin and yang. And you look at just, I'm using those two as example, but there's so many others of that where you have a, point counterpoint type of deal going on that I think makes you guys as a department so effective. And I've always been super impressed with how well that team gels together and how effective you are at, cross-pollinating information and sharing experiences and all that. Speaking of which, do you feel like VDC services are fully utilized on projects? And I'm not necessarily speaking to like RO explicitly, but just like in general.
yeah, no, we were just talking about that at lunch. It's really difficult because I think a lot of people don't know what we do and what the limitations are of what we do. But I think we also don't know, because we don't have as much field experience, what we can do that would be helpful. Like sometimes you forget, like, oh, I have all this opportunity, I have all this information that's kind of in my brain only I can access, or it would be difficult for somebody else to access that information as well. So it's like knowing how we can help and them knowing what they can ask. So there's like definitely a disconnect there that I think that is another reason to have people on the job site, but.
For sure. Yeah. Even, I think of other totally outside of the AEC sector, like attorneys have laws and like they know what those laws are, right? Mm-hmm. So they're kind of operating in a similar framework. Doctors have the, DSM and stuff like that. They can go diagnose psychiatric issues and like, oh, look for this, this, and this. That doesn't really exist for anything in construction,
no.
Let alone VDC services. You kind of have this bit of like a knowledge bubble of like VDC folk who say, oh, we can do X, Y, and Z very easily. How do we translate that into something that every superintendent, new hire, and 30-year PM can understand and appreciate?
Yeah. I think Ops Council is working on that really hard right now. So I know that there's been a definite push for our company to talk to the operations team and talk to the VDC department and say what are your pinch points? What are your pain points? Like, what do you need help with? And we're trying to think of creative ways to help operations do their job better. And then they're trying to ask us well, what is it you do?
Chicken and egg.
Yeah. So we're really working on that, kind of behind the scenes right now to try to standardize our system and the things that we can do you know, and not be just stuck in that box though, you know, like you have to find a balance between kind of pushing the edge and really being able to give everybody the same service.
Well, if you could figure that out and then just like send me the cliff notes on it for the R&D group, that'd be much appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the goal, but you got to have unattainable goals, I think.
Hey, you know what? Shoot for the stars, you'll land on the moon, or something like that.
Yep.
Is that how we got there?
Yep.
Were they actually aiming for Alpha Centauri? Fell a little short, so that's close enough. How did you get in construction, Vanessa?
Oh, I started school in engineering because I love math and science. And
Civil or mechanical?
well, where I started was like just you start in engineering and then you kind of branch out from there. So I hadn't actually stated which one I was going to go at that point. But I really quickly found that I didn't fit into that community. Like, it just was a weird community to me. And like, I had to take a architectural history class for, you know, my major. And so that was like a different hallway, and I fit in that community. So that's how I ended up in architecture. And then when I graduated in 2010, the crash had just happened. So there were no jobs in architecture. Ooh. And I couldn't pay my student loans. So I went back to school for construction management.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you know, turned out to be the right move for me. I love construction. I couldn't see myself being in architecture, and I couldn't see myself really being in engineering either. I think still looking at that community, that's probably not me, but.
Where'd you go to school?
Well, I started at San Antonio College, and then I went to UTSA.
You said UTSA?
Mm-hmm.
Road
yeah,
Runners?
Go Birds.
Go Birds, there it is. Makes me think of a particular video every time I see that.
Yeah, and the construction program was really new when I started, but it's pretty big now. It's like, you know, it's getting there. The school is getting a lot of accreditations now that they didn't have when I went there. But I've done a lot of work to try to like engage the UTSA community. So like I go and do the recruitment for when they have like construction career fair. And we have a lot of students that we have recruited from UTSA that are doing really well at RO. I'm really proud of that.
As you should be. Well, that's, you know, going back to your point on like the people at RO kind of being a huge part of the difference of being here, what you love about being here. If no one goes out and continues to find those people, then it doesn't get to keep going.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I love hearing that people like yourself are out there looking for the next Vanessa Miller, looking for the next Marco Barrio, looking for the next Dr. Hagen Fritz. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned that you're involved a lot with UTSA. Are you involved with any other construction organizations?
Oh, yeah. So I've been a part of NAWIC, which is the National Association of Women in Construction, for a long time. That kind of started because that's one of the ways that I was able to go back to school. They gave me a scholarship when I was in construction college. And also the AIA, which is the American Institute of Architects in San Antonio. I was an allied member, chair member for them last year. What else am I doing? So I do the CIAC at UTSA. Those are kind of my three main ones. You know, like I could choose to be involved a lot more, and I do show up for other events, but like those are the main ones I put my time to, all of my extra spare time. But
yeah. You say you could be involved more. I don't know about that. Has anyone told you about a clock and the fact there's only 24 hours in a day?
I'm really good at scheduling.
You're supposed to sleep from time to time, you know, do a little self-care.
I'm the best at itineraries. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, you know, I think I've caught wind of that from time to time. That's awesome that you're out there. And I think not only representing, you know, RO, but also representing construction, like the GC side of things with AIA. And getting out to the students and all that. I guess there's obvious benefits to that, but what do you think is the most important part about being involved with those? Is that, like, what is your biggest return out of being involved with those organizations?
You know,
you clearly love it.
I know. It's funny, when I was in architecture school, like I was super poor, like, you know, struggling really bad, but we had a professor that was really like, he was like, one of these days you're going to be an architect and you're going to give back to the community. You're going to be in a position to give back. And so he was always talking about, like, you know, thinking about the ways that, like, when you're designing, like, make sure you know, give a space for your community to be involved in your space and all that kind of stuff. And like, I think you have to teach people that when they're struggling, because then when they are in a better position, they can give back and they appreciate it. So like that's kind of where that began for me. So like now I'm like, oh yeah, NAWIC gave me a scholarship. I should make sure that I can give scholarships to other kids, or, that's kind of where that comes from.
This is, I'm pretty sure, out of the group we have listening here, it's probably 99% RO employees. But out of consideration for any of those young bucks out there that might be listening to this, where could they go? Who could they talk to get information about getting a NAWIC scholarship?
Yeah, so the NAWIC has a foundation called NSFS. That's the NAWIC Scholar Foundation thing. I don't know. Yeah, they just...
We'll get Hagen on that. He can
But
post
yeah.
up a link.
So yeah, that's a national scholarship, and I think those applications are due either at the end of this month or beginning of next month. So that's like pretty quickly coming around. But we raise a ton of money for that. They give out a ton of scholarships, and the thing is like it's really hard to get the word out about scholarships. So like sometimes they go unclaimed. So that's a great opportunity if you're in construction or if you're like in trade school. They do trade school scholarships now too.
Really?
Yeah,
That's for like the HVAC trade schools, the carpentry unions, plumber unions, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So
That's fantastic.
It's really exciting. I mean, I think we've been talking about it a lot in San Antonio that we have so limited resources for people who are in the trades and stuff. So we're trying to work towards getting more people involved with that. Not everybody wants to go to college but trade school is a great option. And if we can help people afford to do that,
Definitely. And I think the beauty of a trade school, too, I don't think there's anything as wasted education. But I think to your earlier point, if you can go to a trade school for 6 months or whatever and become proficient in understanding plumbing systems, and you go out as a journeyman and you spend, 2-3 years out there and you're like, man, I really love this plumbing stuff, but like, maybe I want like more 9 to 5, more an office job, whatever, or I want something that is going to present me different opportunities than those that are in the field. Fantastic. Like you can still go to school. You can go get that construction management degree, and every mechanical company and plumber out there in the world is going to be jumping on you like you're the hottest thing since sliced bread. Whenever they see you've got field experience and a 4-year degree, and this is the best thing going.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I feel like it's not in either or. It's not trade school or college. Or conversely, if you went to school and you're like tired of staring at a computer all day, go to a trade school.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's positions out there as an electrician, a carpenter, and I think people would be very surprised at how those people are compensated. It's not the construction of 50 years ago where it was like, oh, well, can't find a job as doing anything else, so I guess I'll go frame a house. It's like, no, that's a legitimate profession. Like it's not a something that's swept up with the folks who barely made it through high school. Like those guys have to know what they're doing. They're competent, intelligent, hardworking, and well remunerated for what they do. I love hearing it, Vanessa. You got me all fired up here. You struck a chord.
No, trade school's amazing. And on that, I didn't start college until I was like 23. So, like going back to school, there's always opportunities there to like change your life, change your station, or just try something different. I think they say people change careers like 3 times in their life on average. And just do it. If you're not happy, do something different.
By that count, I've lived at least like 1.5, maybe 2 lives at 36, 7, 5, 8, whatever I am years old. 42. This guy. Note to self. Bruno's, we'll save that for off air. So here's a fun one for you. If you could have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, if you could have dinner with anyone, who are you going with and why?
Oh, so I did think about this one a little bit. You sent me questions, and I was like, I'm just trying to do it from the hip.
It's a fun one to chew on, like no matter what. You know what I mean?
It's hard because I'm like, your first thought is like, oh, I'd want to do like, the first astronaut or something like that. But
my first thought was Jesus.
But really, truly, if I could, anyone alive or dead, it would be my grandmother.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. Would you like? I'd like to hear like why your grandmother.
I was super close to her. She's like the smartest person I ever knew, and like her generation didn't like have the opportunities to go to school and like kind of be independent. So like it was really expected for her to be like a mom and a housewife. And like, when I was a little kid, like she would be out watering the grass at night, and I would go out there and like hang out with her. And she would point out the ISS to me. So like that's how I like got involved with space and stuff like that. And like she was just brilliant. Like she had like encyclopedias, and like I would go and like see what she was doing, and she'd be reading her encyclopedias. And like that just kind of like inspired me to be like, oh, well, I have opportunities to go to school and do something more and do something in science. Like I can do this. And she didn't get to. So like that's why I do what I do now. But like, yeah, like if I could spend another dinner with her, I totally would.
This is the closest I've been to tearing up since we've done one of these. Jesus, don't put me on camera there, Cesar. I need a second to compose myself. That's beautiful, Vanessa. And I can't imagine someone that could have done her more proud than yourself, having not only gone out into the professional workforce, but also went into safe to say, a male-dominated
Yeah.
workforce, right? Like, I don't want to put construction on blast too hard, but I think if you were to ask the general public about us, they see us, the AEC sector, as being fairly chauvinistic relative to like tech or banking or healthcare or something like that. So there were two paths, and you did not take the one more traveled.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm sorry to everyone downstream having to listen to me cough. We're going to get over this at some point. It was real bad last week. We're doing better this week. Trying to feed myself coffee and keep it to a
I thought you were doing the smoky voice on purpose.
No, this is not intentional at all. I would love nothing more than for it to go away. But in the meantime, here we are. So your grandmother was very obvious. I'm going to take a minute and go learn how to speak English. Your grandmother was obviously very influential to you as a child. Is there someone that's been very influential, a bit of an advocate for you within RO?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people. I know, like in San Antonio, John Archer is always like somebody that I can go and talk to if I'm having like, if I'm confused about what to do next, or if I want to do something in an organization, and like I know he'll support me in those decisions. Obviously in VDC, Miranda's hugely influential. I mean, I always talk about this, but she calls me all the time, and she'll tell me like, oh, I just wanted to catch up with you. Like I saw this happening, or I noticed this, and like, I just want to see how you were doing and if you're okay. And then she'll go, but you don't have to tell me if you don't want to tell me.
That's very Miranda.
Amazing. Like who does that? Like who has those kind of relationships with their like bosses or whatever? But that's hugely important to me. And like, yeah, I do feel supported. Like, the sky's the limit. If I wanted to like build the lunar lander,
Cesar,
I know it would happen here at RO.
+1. Someday down the road we'll clarify on that. John Archer is an incredible human being, and I think to have him at RO, especially how we got him. I don't know if you had a chance to hear his stream back in December, but. Just so many stars had to align, pieces had to be in the right place at the right time, and it's like, but we're all here.
Yeah.
Same with Miranda. You know what I mean? Just beating up RO. She's gonna get on here one of these days. We're gonna have to save that for like something like 4th of July extravaganza. Yeah. She's gonna come in decked out.
You're gonna need a 2-hour special for that one.
Oh my! I don't know if that's gonna be enough. But. Yeah, I don't think you could go into a room in this building without finding a fantastic person. I'm super happy to hear that you're able to find some advocates, not only in your department, but also in your region without having to rely on kind of your nuclear group, if you will.
Yeah. No, everybody here is a cheerleader. Like, you could open whichever door in this office and somebody would be like, yeah, that's awesome.
We only have 10 minutes left, Vanessa. We've hit like 3 of these questions. I've said
told you.
I'm going to stop doing these at some point in time. But there are a couple more that I'd like to hit on. One is, and I kind of want to jump back into the VDC side of things, because I know you said that you feel like a lot of folks aren't aware of what VDC can do, can't do, what's super easy for you guys, what's super difficult. Are there any tools that you have found, and this is probably really targeting the VDC audience out there, but are there any tools or processes that you found that make your job far better, far easier as a coordinator?
Yeah, I think Procore, adding the model to Procore has been hugely helpful. I think the more opportunity that you give people to use the information on their own, like nobody wants to come into your office and say like, can you pull the model up? but they do, but it's like pretty few and far in between. So if they can pull up the model on their own, that's like a game changer, I think. So like not everybody wants to pull up the model. So I think like, there are a certain amount of people that are going to be really like wanting to do that or wanting to use that. So the more opportunity you give people to be able to use the model on their own, that's huge. We recently started testing Revisto, which I think has been, I was like really against it first because I was like, oh, like we have these things and like this, I don't know, like I was like the old person at like, we've always done it this way. We don't need to do it that way. But I think Revisto has been really helpful. I like the idea of like tracking the changes as they occur. And so it does track like changes. You keep notes, like, oh, this person's going to move 3 inches this way and this is why. And having those notes to go back to 6 months later when they're actually installing it and they're like, why did you move that thing? And you're like, I don't know. Seemed like a good idea at the time. But, you have a report now on that. So that's really nice to have. What was the other thing VDC wise? I don't know. I guess, yeah, just access to tools, access to the model. So Procore doing that has been really cool.
Man, that's nice to hear that it's not only something just popped up here. Throw it at me, sister.
I've been here for 5 years, and when I started, we had like a file share system where people would send their files to us, and then we would save it, and then we would have to make a copy for the folder where we used our linked files, and that was like
we have to keep going.
Yeah, it was awful, right? Everybody's shaking their head. Everybody hated it. So now everything's like cloud-based. So that's like greatest thing ever, best invention since sliced bread. I can look it up online and be like, oh, you haven't uploaded since last week at 3:00, and like I call people out on it all the time, in private, but I do call people out on it because like you can track it so easily now. And like it used to be they would say like, oh, I sent you that model, didn't I? And I'm like, I emailed that to you. And so now everybody sees it. Like they can.
I don't think so.
So yeah, cloud-based sharing, game changer. Game changer.
Oh,
yeah.
Excuse me.
I forgot about it too. We blocked it out.
Yeah, there's like some like bordering on PTSD type of memories.
Yeah.
And I remember there a couple of times too where we were like, I don't remember what the exact issue was, but they'd have to like do system maintenance or whatever. They'd be like moving files from A to B or whatnot, and all of a sudden everything would just go missing.
And corrupt.
Like, you're kidding me.
Corrupted files. Yeah. You know what?
Like the 13th upload, and it's like, oh, that doesn't work anymore. I guess we're starting over again.
I think
wonderful.
The other thing that I forgot about was like people would send you their model and then you would upload it. So when you opened it in the model, if they sent you the wrong file or if they like saved it wrong or didn't overwrite the right one, like you didn't know. You didn't know that wasn't their latest. So like now they can check it themselves in real time. Like it's great.
Oh man, some serious heartache, but we found a better way.
Yes, we did.
Hey, someone should
Don't
write
ever
that
take
down.
that away. Don't ever take cloud sharing away.
Oh, we're gonna find a way to make it even better if we can. I don't know, Terry, if you're out there, let's keep that search going. What has been your biggest failure, either personally, professionally, whatever you're willing to share? I don't want to beat you up too hard, but and the follow-up question is, what did you learn from that failure?
I don't know. I think like now that I'm a little bit older, I won't admit my age, but just like places where you wasted time, like trying to make things work that weren't going to work, because you have like the investment of time already and you don't want to pull out of that.
Sunk bias is so difficult.
Yes. So I think that's been a big failure in my life. It's just any time that I like didn't start like, changing direction when I probably should have. But it's hard for me to call those failures, it's all lessons learned to me. Like I don't really feel like anything's been a failure. I think it's just been part of the journey.
What a positive outlook. I love that. I love the optimism in it. Like it's not.
I do have toxic optimism. That's a thing that I have apparently. I've been told. According
to like a licensed person or?
Yeah. I didn't start therapy soon enough. That would have been really nice if I'd have done that sooner. Like it's okay to be like sad about things apparently, and I just have not been able to embrace that as a human being.
Man, and that's so funny hearing you say that too, because I feel like that was a bit of was what I'm looking, not a trend, but like something that Fred had identified as well. It was like You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. And you got to know, like, admitting to yourself when it's a good day or when it's a bad day, and knowing how to respond to that, I think is so much of being the best you can be at any point in time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's easy to, like, put on a front or whatnot, but, like, it's one thing to, like, kind of always be here, you know what I mean? Show up and just like, okay, we're going to do some work. I think it's different to be able to, like, reflect on yourself internally and say, man, like, having that vulnerability to go to your team, to go to your manager, the people you work with every day, whomever it may be, like, guys, I'm having a rough one. Like, I'm sorry, this isn't you guys. Maybe it is sometimes. I don't know. Up to you to tell them or not, right? But like, I'm here, but I'm not full throttle. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. Just give me a bit of time here.
Yeah.
Or coming in and being like, I'm ready to go, folks. Like, you know, I'm ready to kick this into 5-wheel drive. Let's go, you know, climb the Himalayas and make some things happen here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's me. No, so I think it's been difficult for me to, like, be able to admit when I'm not having the best day or whatever and say that, but I'm really good at it now. But it's also difficult for me when other people are having that, and to allow them the space to not be okay. You know, that's been something I've been having to work on, about, like, not saying, like, it's okay, bad things happen, we can fix this. How can we fix this? You know, like, that's my, like, go-to response, is to try to fix things. And, like, you just can't fix things all the time. Sometimes you just gotta let people be in their kind of in their bad space.
No one to show them, no one to hold them. That is tough. So I admire you greatly for taking the time and trying to pull that one off. Sound like a Glennon Doyle podcast over here, isn't it?
Mental health, people.
It is. It's important. And I think the good thing about where we're at nowadays is it's not only is it important, it's becoming obvious to people.
Yeah.
And whether you're talking about, you know, soldiers or attorneys or, you know, nurses being burned out from COVID, like, we're realizing there's consequences to all of it. No matter how tough some of those people might seem or how resilient they may come across, like, they're still human.
Oh, yeah. You think that the construction guys aren't, like, toxically masculine about their mental health struggles? Did you guys get the little cards, the little business cards? In San Antonio, we got little business cards that have, like, they're like an RO card, and they're like, oh, if you need assistance, like, and it has a little phone number. So we have, like, I guess through our HR stuff, we have, like, mental health, like, services that you can access for free.
We're trying to step in the right direction.
I know, that's so cool to me. Like, it's been cool to see, like, you know, obviously the younger generation is real accepting of that kind of thing, but, like, you know, to be like with these older, like, superintendent guys, like, it's okay to be sad, you know, you don't have to drink every day. You know, there's better ways.
I'm not gonna call it one out. There's a Rolodex rolling through my head of, like, yeah, not gonna do that, not gonna do that, not gonna do that.
Sorry, we're getting real on
Yeah.
today's podcast.
Hey,
But
that's what we're here for. This is why I was so excited about this. You know, that's texting you the other day saying, hey, anything that, like, you definitely do or don't want to touch on? And that's like, I'm an open book. I'm like, this is gonna be great. We're gonna have some fun. The only downside is we only have 2 minutes left.
well,
So hard. Like, I want these. There's a party that wants these to be like 3 hours long, right? Like, let's really get into it. There's always part of me is like, I don't know how many people are gonna listen to that. I'll sit down and listen to a
Yeah.
podcast for like 2-3 hours or whatnot, but
you can speed up the YouTube video.
that's true, right? Play it back in 2x. I think we got time for one more question before we jump off here, Vanessa. If you had to give advice to young Vanessa, which is probably really just jazz, right? Like, that's who
Yeah.
we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Can't tell the difference between you two from 10 feet away. If you had to give some advice to young Vanessa, what would that advice be?
I think I've told her this a lot. It's not what you know to, you know, like, make friends with the people that you meet in college. You know, like, Stephanie got me my job where I am today, which is, like, ended up being my best friend in the whole world. And, you know, I've traveled the world with her. Like, it's just the people that you meet, like, cultivate those people, because you want to surround yourself by people that are doing cooler things than you. And, like, they're going to show you the way. Like, I don't know. So I think it is about, like, surrounding yourself by positive people or people who you want to be like.
Love it. Such a beautiful thing to hear. Well, Ms. Miller, thank you so much for making the trip up here for the day. It was an absolute pleasure having you. Sorry to the project team who had to do with a virtual Vanessa for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us borrow. I think this will be very helpful to people going forward. whether they be coming into the VDC department or if they're heading down to San Antonio or if they're just like, hey, I want to hear from a woman in construction. I think you've given everyone a lot to think about and a lot to consider. So can't say enough good things about you, and thank you again for coming up here and joining us for this afternoon.
Thanks, James. It was mildly painless.
That's the target, mildly painless. To everyone downstream, I apologize for the audio issues. We're working to make this better every time. I think we're getting there slowly but surely. I know there was an issue with the Teams meeting too. I could have sworn to goodness that I removed that checkbox that said make this a Teams meeting, but apparently failed to do so. So my apologies. Hopefully we're getting a little better each time. Probably tomorrow, maybe later today, definitely tomorrow, you'll be able to find this on Spotify and Apple Podcast. RORND. I think that's it, right? Yeah, just RORND. So go out there, share it with your friends, share it with your family, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.